Last video of beating New Vegas with the single shotgun did way better than I had ever expected. So before I go into this video, let me say again, thank you for that support. Now then, on to the next challenge, in what I consider one of my personal favorite games of all time, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Figuring that I have played this game extensively and with the expanded combat focus of this game over the previous in the franchise, I decided for my first video in the game, it needs to be a memorable one. So here I go asking the simple question, can I beat Zelda Breath of the Wild without taking any damage? If you've been around YouTube challenge runs before, and let's face it, if you're watching this video, then you probably have, you already have an idea of what the rules are for this run. For those who don't, here's the gist. I cannot take any damage from any source. If I do, it is counted as a death, and I must reload to my last save point. No exceptions. I will be keeping an updated death counter in the top right. Difficulty is on normal mode for this attempt. I think this will be hard enough without the added punishment of master mode. Now that I've explained the ground rules, let's begin. After being woken up by Zelda, I grab my in-game Switch tablet, suit up in my raggy clothes, and head outside for one of the best intros in video games, in my opinion. I ignore the old man for now, and keep heading down the path to the Sheikah Tower. Initial enemies go down to a simple bonking, such is the tutorial area after all. Doesn't mean I shouldn't be careful, one hit is all it takes to die. Once the tower is reactivated, Zelda tries to gauge our lost memories, but can't do much from inside the castle, so the mysterious old man flies in to help with that. He directs me towards my first shrine in exchange for the paraglider, where we get the Magnesis rune. For the video's sake, I'll only be mentioning shrines if they contain something interesting or a death going forward. Running over to the second shrine, I grab my first bow. Now with my experience in this game, it is more than possible for me to just hightail it to each of the locations and ignore everything in between, but that would be quite boring for the run and for me playing. So I take it upon myself to fight some of the monsters' encampments I'm going to come across throughout the run. Come again though, I navigate through the ruins and dodge the introduction of the Guardian enemies, where we then get the remote bombs. Here's hoping I don't blow myself up with one of those. Heading to the next shrine, I stop by the old man's house to cook. Food for healing has no purpose this run, but for the passive buffs they give like cold resistance, it is still helpful. Yet I believe this is the only time I cooked anything this run. Further ahead, and I blew this one bokoblin off the cliff with a bomb. Climbing the cliffs tests only my patience not to jump up and then fall off, and I then acquire the next rune, Stasis. The last shrine is on the snowy part of the plateau, hence why I needed to cook that meal before. Thankfully, along the way, I can get a permanent solution to the cold by climbing Mount Hylia in the center, where you can find the old man again, and talking to him here will have him hand over the warm doublet. Another bomb works well dispersing a group of bokoblins, and I can reach the final shrine and get the Cryonosis rune. Coming back out, the old man flies in once more, where he tells us where to meet one final time. The place is of course the Temple of Time, where I can spend the spirit orbs I got on stamina. Increasing my health this run is pointless, as there's no need since I can't get the Master Sword later anyway. Besides, it's more useful to increase stamina first early on. Reaching the old man at the top of the steeple, he reveals himself as the king. Here, we the player are given a more in-depth telling of events that led to the Great Calamity and what happened to those involved. He tells us how he and the champions lost their lives, and we lost our fight with Calamity Ganon so badly we had to sleep it off for 100 years. Zelda survived, and has been hibernated in Hyrule Castle all this time, keeping Ganon contained till we can reawake and have a rematch. He suggests I head out to Kakariko Village to the east, and I follow that suggestion. As a parting gift, he gives me the paraglider, and I leave brimming with confidence, having made my way through the whole tutorial area without suffering my first death. This feeling lasts long enough for me to touch the ground, as the first enemy I encounter kicks me right in the face, forcing the first reset. The good thing about doing this challenge in Breath of the Wild is how often the game autosaves, so I'm rarely punished hard by having to go way back, unlike say Fallout or the Elder Scrolls. I make sure that Moblin doesn't get to keep the satisfaction of killing me in the first place before setting off. So another rule for the run came to mind soon after. I mentioned before that I can't retrieve the Master Sword, as the sequence of pulling it out has you take damage. Well, this also goes for the Champion's Ballad DLC, so I unfortunately cannot do a full playthrough that I had initially hoped. To compensate, I added 2 other rules, first of which is not allowing the use of any of the DLC armor hidden throughout the map. Some of them would just make things way too easy and monotonous, like for example, Majora's Mask, which serves as like an all-purpose monster mask, which makes the majority of enemies I'll encounter non-hostile, and can be found mere minutes from the starting location. The second rule I added was to fight one of each of the overworld mini-bosses. This includes the Stone Talus, Rare Stone Talus, Frost Talus, Igneo Talus, Hinox, Stalinox, Moldolga, and for the hell of it, Lionels. We can find the first of which on the Great Plateau, that being the normal Stone Talus. I remember well the strategy for fighting them, which involves sniping their exposed ore vein to stun them, then wait until it falls down to climb on top, and I only need to do 2 attack cycles before jumping off, before it can throw me off. Being an early mini-boss, his health is pretty small, and I make short work of him with my sledgehammer. Following the river to the Dueling Peaks, I successfully fight several more Bokoblin camps, before a stray rock thrown by a skeletal one beans me in the back, resulting in the second death. Annoyingly, my reset is right in front of another Bokoblin, who catches me in a moment of panic and gets the 3rd kill on me. Now, I had encountered these enemies so I can climb the Regent's Tower, with the intention of gliding to the other mountain cliff to reach a shrine that contains the Climber's Bandana. Here, my impatience gets the better of me, and I misjudge a jump and fall to my death. Unfortunately, this will not be the last time this happens. Lo and behold, I do it again at the very next shrine! Ugh. Close to Kakariko Village, I temporarily avoid Hestu to get his maracas for him, only for me to be struck by indecision and get smacked for it. Some close calls next time, but I do clear the Bokoblins out, and I have collected a few Korok seeds to afford 2 weapon inventory expansions. Meeting with Impa, and she gives me more backstory in the form of the usual Zelda legend. You know, hero chosen by the sword that seals the darkness, yada yada. She also gives me the task of freeing the Divine Beast, and heading to Kakariko Village to restore functionality to parts of the Sheikah Slate I don't have access to. Fortunately, I can complete the latter task without any deaths, and find that Link can apparently open doors with his mind by whistling. Neat. But yes, Pura can restore the Sheikah Slate's camera, allowing for the access of the memories. I won't be collecting all of them, don't see the point in doing so, but finding one will get me the Champion's Tunic from Impa. Easiest one to find is beyond the Great Fairy Fountain, and I'll clarify that yes, fairies are also off limits. I tried toying with the first Yika Clan member encounter, before fighting him normally. We'll see much more of them later. After reminiscing about the pleasant memory of witnessing Ganon's resurrection, I head back to Impa one last time, and am gifted the Champion's Tunic, which does have the novel ability to show you the numbers of HP a standard enemy has. Oh wait, no, I didn't do that right away. Instead, I continued a little further, and fought the Lionel that is just beyond the gate. Now, if there's one enemy I will never forget how to fight, it is Lionels. Easily some of the toughest enemies in the game. These guys are like Deathclaws in New Vegas. They will wreck you as a new player, but it feels like the greatest of achievements when you first triumph over them. My strategy to fight them is to stay close, and prioritize getting flurry rushes by dodging at the right time. The ones with the sword and shield I can often bait into repeatedly doing the same sword swing, which is the most consistent attack to dodge in my opinion. Unfortunately for my first try, I wasn't prepared for him to charge me when so close, and as such got pummeled into a 7th death. Second try goes much smoother, and after breaking half my weapons on him, can emerge victorious and reap the spoils. The best of which is the Lionel Bow, a tri-bow that will prove very useful for a future fight. With that out of the way, now it's time to decide the order I wish to tackle the Divine Beasts. I figure Meadow is always the best first choice, and it is very simple to get aboard, and the reward of Revali's Gale I find is the most useful of the champion abilities. On my way, I make good on some earlier foreshadowing, and indeed blow myself up with a remote bomb. Damn it! Further along, I run into one of my favorite characters in Cass, whose presence I miss so dearly in Tears of the Kingdom. His theme is just one of my favorites in the game that I enjoy listening to casually all the time. Next, I attempt to check off another one of the mini-bosses, this being the Lumbering Hinox. The strategy here is to sneak up on them and then charge an attack with a two-handed weapon, as you can get several hits in on their back before they stand up. Regrettably, I fall victim to his butt slam attack and suffer my first in-game death because of it. Second try is the real charm for me, and like with the Lionel, can emerge the victor. Another death from a choo-choo has me decided in future to just run past most of the randomly spawning enemies in future. They're just annoying to me. On the nearby bluffs, I run into a hurdle that ended up proving too much. This monster camp is full of Listophiloses, who are majority blue rank already, and are hard to keep track of in large groups. For the sake of time, know that I tried 4 times to fight my way past the varying flavors of failure before giving up and sneaking around. The reason I even came up here was for the shrine, being one of the major tests of strength, which is just a combat shrine with a single guardian, but it does have really good weapons if I can win. Only partway through the fight I realize I don't have strong enough weapons, and will end up breaking on all of them and still not win. So I reload, counting it as a death, and just move on. Another monster camp I stumble onto is full of even more black rank enemies who easily one-shot me. The counter is really starting to pick up now. No, what really made it start picking up was the rare stone talus that some deviously giggling developer put right on the road leading to Rito Village. I know my strategy works, but I'm working with less effective weapons and a larger enemy health bar. But the real fault is my own, as I repeatedly keep fucking up in ways I shouldn't be, like not running off in time. I got close on one attempt, but ran out of running room and got stoned. Frustration building, I finally got a fuck-up free attempt and bested this rocky foe. The small canyon before the village poses no threat beyond a reminder of past trauma.
Ow. Oh, come on!
Now, finally having arrived at Rito Village, I buy some cold protective gear to survive the cold, and chat with the Elder. Now, the process to board meadow is so simple, I can explain each step in 4 words or less. Here goes. Talk with Elder. Talk to Warrior's wife. Have flashbacks of Revali. Head to flight range. Chat with Warrior Teva. Shoot just 4 targets. Discuss plan of attack. Fly up to meadow. Shoot bombs at cannons. Do 4 times, win. Now aboard the Divine Beast, there are very few enemies here, more so puzzles in order to activate the terminals to regain control of the Divine Beast. But there is plenty of malice, that's what the reddish black blue goo or whatever it is called, which I unintentionally demonstrate can hurt you, forcing a reload. Resetting on board a Divine Beast will always put you back where you entered, so depending where you are at, it can take some time to get back to where you were. Oh, and you want a useful tip? On Meadow, head to the end of the beak. Here you'll find a chest that has a giant ancient core, a rather rare material useful for obtaining some items later. Enough stalling though, now it's time for the first proper boss fight against Windblight Ganon. He fights entirely with ranged attacks, so you must as well to beat him. Luckily for me, the Lionel bow I got earlier does wonders at stunning and knocking him down, so for the first half of the battle, I'm the one in control. Things get a little dicey when I trigger the second phase. Here, Windblight Ganon will move higher into the air and spawn in several small floating capsules to ricochet shots at you. He also tends to teleport more often, I feel, so stunning him with crits is trickier than before. When I do land the crits, I did it when he was hovering off the side, and thus he fell out of the arena, which to him means a free revive. The Lionel bow breaks mid-fight, but does get in one last good stun, bringing him down low enough for a few more shots with some backup bows to finish the job. No second try needed, as I won the battle on my first attempt. After the ordeal getting to the village, this was a major confidence booster going forward. With Champion Revali's spirit freed, he graciously grants me his unique ability of Revali's Gale, a super useful traversal power that launches you high up straight into the air by holding down the jump button. Side note, Rivali's theme that plays during this cutscene is my personal favorite slice of music from the game. All the champion themes are great, but his I like the most. Before heading out, I grab the Great Eagle Bow, another great reward I'll put to good use. With one beast down, I decide to go get the 3 pieces of the Barbarian armor for their permanent passive attack buff. To get them though requires traversing to 3 mazes scattered far across the map, so I'll collect at least 1 piece before helping the next Hyrulean race. On the way, I run across a similar monster outpost to the one I dodged before, where I'm the one stun locked as they break my shield and slash me good right after. Next try, and I finally hit upon how I should have fought these battles. My problem was being too indecisive on who to target first, and staying relatively in one place, which led to me getting swarmed. Instead, I run back after learning the monsters, and attack who I lock onto first, usually the enemy charging ready to attack. I prioritize getting flurry rushes to deal damage without the worry of being attacked back, and allowing me to pick off each enemy one by one. Annoyingly, the skeletal enemies I talked about earlier strike again with another death. I do climb the tower for the region, allowing me to see the maze on the map to the far north. After making my way there on shield and on foot, I forgot my previous advice and got swarmed by Listophiluses again. I ignore those monsters again the next time, and remember the way through the maze, scoring me the Barbarian leggings. At this time, I also remember something useful. I did pick up the heart container for beating Windblight Ganon earlier, but as I previously stated, increasing hearts is pointless. There is a fix. By heading back to Hitino Village, I can chat with this cursed, horned goddess statue outside the settlement, in which I can engage his services to exchange that extra heart for a stamina vessel. To avoid repeating myself, I came back and did this after every major boss fight going forward. After some debate, I landed on aiding the Gorons next, so it's off to the Elden region. Along the way, I stopped by the Zora River stable and encounter Hestu again, as you can find him at the few stables along the way as he travels to the Lost Woods. I can't afford 2 more weapon stash upgrades, I just don't bother increasing bow or shield slots. I should mention, since I didn't earlier, I'm not using a horse to travel around either. Figured it would have me skipping over places of interest and making the run less exciting. Another stop at Foothill Stable yields me some fire resistance potions I need to prevent myself from roasting like a Thanksgiving turkey. 2 is all I need to reach Goron City. The road to Goron City has 2 Guardian Stalkers roaming about, the first of which I used the free Ancient Arrow, gifted by Beetle, to kill with a crit. The second one, though, I just flew over with Rivali's Gale. Moving along, and I come across an Igniotalus to fight, which I'm honest are easier to stun, so long as you have enough ice arrows to use. That being said, I suffer a death as Link fails to jump off properly off the monster. My Joy-Con stick drift nearly gets me killed via gravity after loading in, but I didn't completely stop paying attention. Much like the other mini-bosses, second try goes by without a hitch. Talking to the Goron Elder Bluto, he is quite busy with worries over his back pain and the well-being of the Goron Unibo, who hasn't returned yet with the painkillers. To find him, we must jump about several rocky platforms in the lava seas, and use cannons activated with remote bombs to get him out. Staying moving constantly is a good way to avoid damage here, and I suffer no issues. Same couldn't be said for Bluto, whose back pain still flares despite the painkillers. Meeting up with Unibo, and he tells me I can use him as a makeshift cannonball to knock down the bridge, and then use 3 more cannons along Death Mountain to force Divine Beast Rudania into the maw of the volcano. In our way are a couple Sentry Guardians that if they spot me or Unibo, then Rudania will rain down meteors. But once you've done this section before, you can easily remember the sequence of events of what you need to do to get by, and after sweeping away some more moblins, can be aboard the second Divine Beast. Rudania is the smallest of the 4 beasts, so the terminals are relatively close by comparison. The initial part has the internal belly pitch black, which gives a cool aesthetic with the growing malice and ancient technology textures. After lighting the way with the blue flame, we can get the map and make my way carefully through the beast, careful not to touch any malice or fall off into the lava. Fireblight Ganon here is a bit more involved than Windblight from before. His melee attacks in the first phase, I struggle to reliably get the timing for, so I instead stick as close as I can and slash away like I'm playing the original Dark Souls. That being said, I do get a Flurry Rush to trigger the second phase. For his second phase, Fireblight puts up a fire shield and floats above melee range, but simply using a remote bomb will stun him out of the shield when he readies up an attack where he sucks up air to create like a large fireball. He would have put the shield back up if I let him, but I didn't, instead firing off rapid shots to cinch the victory. Another boss down on the first go-around. Hell yeah! Daruk is as excited as I am for my victory, and grants me his boon of Daruk's protection, an all-purpose shield that automatically activates whenever I'm holding down the block button. Needless to say, for a run like this, it'll be quite helpful. Again, I temporarily put off the next Divine Beast to retrieve another part of the Barbarian armor, located in the far northeast in Akkala. Despite the many guardians swarming about, I make my way up the Akkala Citadel ruins to the tower above. Sadly, I ruined my own good feelings built up from before by not once, not twice, but 3 times touching the malice at the summit. At this point, my impatience is becoming the biggest source of death this run. Now while I came to Akkala to reach the maze, I take a detour to help Robbie out so I can purchase some ancient gear from him, netting me 6 ancient arrows. I put one to use right away after entering the maze on the Guardian Stalker waiting by the entrance. The maze no longer takes any time for me to complete, and within a few minutes I can acquire the Barbarian Helmet. Not that I'll need the added damage output to save the Zora, mind you. To save on time, I skip over meeting with Sidon outside the domain, and that he won't stop me at several points as I make my way there. Oddly, I think the game wanted me to come here first, as the enemies are still mostly normal Listophaloses. Granted, Listophalos with shock arrows still hurt, and force 2 more deaths and resets. The other enemies along the way don't pose much threat, from the small cluster of electric keys to the electric wizrobe. In the shrine in the domain, I zone out for a bit, and for that sin, get clobbered by a rolling stone. Ain't no satisfaction in that. Neither is there in misjudging jumps again. Because I bypassed him earlier, I get to see a rarely seen alternative cutscene to introduce Sidon, so that's neat. To get aboard Divine Beast Ruta, we need the Zora tunic, to which King Dorephan gives me. We use it to convince the stubborn Zora Muzu to tell me where to get shock arrows we also need. Anyway, the shock arrows are on a place called Shatterback Point, where we are warned that a Lionel has taken residence. I only needed 3 arrows to progress, but I didn't want to just walk away and went to fight the Lionel anyway. Pretty sure this particular Lionel is meant to be the player's first introduction to them, considering the small cutscene that plays. Sounding like a broken record, the first attempt I make, a dumb mistake, costs me a death. Then next try I pull through. Another tip with Lionel fights, there are times that if you can land an arrow crit on their head, you can rush them down and mount the beast. When you do this, use whatever melee weapon you have that does the most damage. No matter what class it is, Link will attack at the same speed, and these attacks in particular don't drain the weapon's durability. Doing this choice with the Boulder Breaker I got earlier does a huge number on drawing down his health. Now on to boarding Ruta. To do so, I must ride on Sidon's back and shoot down incoming ice projectiles from the beast. I just so missed this one shot and are forced to reload, and watch the small cutscene and dialogue with Sidon again before having another attempt. Put a pin in that sentence, I just might be reusing it later. On the following go, I remember after shooting one of the orbs on the beast, if you and Sidon are close enough, you can hit the ice projectiles before they're launched, making it easier to progress. Shooting ones on top can even take away other blocks too. After some more close calls, I can hit the last orb and be inside the Divine Beast. And so now we can move on to by far the easiest boss fight in the game, Waterblight Ganon. His melee attacks are so simple to dodge, and the second phase gets even easier. He has absolutely no defense from ranged attacks, so all I have to do is pull up my bow, stand in one place, and fire volley after volley after volley as he can't do anything but fall from the air with each crit, making him such a pushover of a fight. 3 for 3 on the Blight bosses. I was riding high at that time. But for those who know who I've yet to face, you'll be able to guess rightly, it would not last. Ever caring in her demeanor, Mipha appears to grant me her power, that being Mipha's grace. Unfortunately, I cannot make use of her power, as it acts like a free revive like a fairy. So while preventing a death, it does not prevent damage being taken, and thus is useless to me. Sorta balances out though. Super easy boss fight yields ability I can't use. After that, I decide now is a good time to travel back and have the rematch against that Guardian in that major test of strength shrine. Using the Blizzard Rod I found, I can freeze him and then hit him to inflict double damage. Frozen enemies take double damage, by the way, making the fight go by much faster than expected. The weapon this Guardian drops are some of the best in the game and do extra damage to Guardian enemies, including the bosses. Last Divine Beast to go to free is Naboris, so it's off to the Gerudo Desert. Even though I already fought one, I'll have to fight the Hinox at the bridge, if you can even call it that. My hubris doesn't last long though, as the bokoblins on horseback kill me 2 more times, trying to shoot them off. I had a pleasant stroll through Gerudo Canyon after that, even having a death-free go at some moblins and electric choo-choos that had a close call at the end, I'll say. I was heading for the tower to get the map, as this region also has the last maze and piece of the barbarian armor, but I forgot to go get it for a while. I go through the usual rigmarole to gain entry to Gerudo Town, including just marking the shrine outside. I don't need to complete any more for spirit ores, as my stamina wheel is nearly full. The final step involves tracking down this particular woman, and purchasing a spare set of clothes to sneak in, spawning who knows how many deviant art pictures of Link cross-dressing. Once in town, the tasks required to be allowed to board Naboris are the most involved of the 4 beasts. Meeting Riju and Boliara, thankfully, does not end with me being thrown out for being a dude, but instead my first task is to recover the stolen Thunder Helm from the Yiga clan. Heading to their hideout via Sand Seal is quick and easy. What isn't though is getting hit by stray arrow on the approach. Next try and the game decides to mess with me by spawning in some skeletal moblins, and again I get hit by an arrow. The moblins spawn in again, but later the next time, so I can focus on the Yiga clan and take them out first, and by proxy enter the hideout. The Yiga hideout can pose some problems, especially when attempting to get through on your first playthrough. If spotted, the Yiga Blade Masters can one-shot Link, no matter what your health is, or even if you have recovery items like fairies or Mipha's Grace. Well, after one Blade Master doesn't ever stop moving for me to hit and sees me, it's not an immediate fail. You can fight your way out if you're good enough. I almost and, but again, I took another arrow in the knee. Despite what some guards may say, I continue to be an adventurer despite that, and on the second go-around successfully get through. What helps with the second room for me is to climb on the ladder to the small room above, and then jump on the wall and shimmy my way across till I can jump onto the rafters above, and then lead the last guard away with some bananas. Now on to the boss fight that is so easy I forgot it was in the game. Master Koga, the leader of the Yoga clan. Yeah, I can see that.
Inhale and exhale.
Anyway, I won't waste any time. Koga is ridiculously easy, and no deaths were recorded here, but he does get to fall into the pit and be the first to discover the depths in time for Tears of the Kingdom though, so silver lining for him. With the Thunder Helm retrieved, I head back to Riju, head flashbacks to Champion Urbosa, and soon after meet Riju again later as I remember about the last maze, and then leave to go get the Barbarian armor. No issues arise, so quick detour over. The plan the two of us have to bring down Naboris involves shooting its feet with bomb arrows, so gotta be careful not to blow myself up again. When close to it, Naboris will try to shock the player with lightning strikes, so we have to stay close to Riju when it's charging up. Only I wasn't close enough at one point and got electrocuted for my troubles. Remembering that pin from before with Ruta? Well, now I'm taking it out, because I have to rewatch shit again to have another crack. Risking it big next time, I charge out and manage to cripple 3 feet in one pass, bringing Naboris down and allowing me to get inside. Nuboris to me is the trickiest of the beasts, not just to board, but also to navigate to the 5 terminals. You have to spin like the 3 pieces in its belly to get around, which takes quite a while to figure out relative to like the other beasts. I stupidly take another death by trying to throw a weapon at this guardian, only for it to hit me back with a laser blast before dying. With that though, the rest of the terminals are completed, and now it's time. Time for me to face my personal demon. Everybody has that one boss fight in the game that no matter how many times you face off against it, you always dread and or struggle in that fight. Thunderblight Ganon, to me, is that boss. I hate this fight. He's just a massive leap of difficulty from all the other bosses, arguably even the Ganon at the end. And I think I finally hit upon why I find him so. When he does his standard dash attack, he cannot be targeted, which significantly shortens the window to successfully get a flurry rush. You have to be so precise, and I just struggle so much with that timing. Then in the second phase, it gets worse. In the first, if I didn't get the flurry rush, I could still jump out of the way of his slash and keep fighting. Now, he electrifies his sword and shield, and will do several slashes in quick succession, so if you don't get the rush and just normally hop out of the way, 99% of the time, he will hit you again with a follow-up. So what that means for this challenge is, if I can get to the second phase, I have only one chance to get a flurry rush before I get aggressively cut down. And don't think you can run and keep distance from him, he'll zoom right over to you wherever you go. His shield will block any ranged attacks too, or so I thought. Now while that's true most of the time, whenever he's stunned, he is open to hit with arrows. I know you can also parry attacks, but I just suck at the timing, and my one try at it failed miserably. So after 6 painful, rage-inducing deaths, I just give up and figure, if he is going to abuse the inability to be targeted, I will abuse my ability to slow time in the air and fire off several ancient arrows into him, finally securing me the fight. I don't feel too proud of how I won, but it was 5 hours into a one long recording session, and 1 in the morning. I just wanted this fight over! Well, with my victory, Urbosa comes to chat with me one last time, and she's in agreement in wanting this over as soon as possible. She then gives me her power over Urbosa's Fury, a sweet damaging power that strikes anything in range of charging a power attack. Although I think I only ended up using it once in the rest of the run. Either way, with the Boris in place, all of the Divine Beasts are freed, and it will help during the final battle with Calamity Ganon. With all 4 beasts freed, the Champion's Ballad DLC is now available to begin, but I cannot do it, and I will show you why. To start, you need to travel back to the Shrine of Resurrection, where we find a new weapon floating in the room. This is the one-hit Obliterator, which you must wield to complete the opening trial. As the name implies, it will kill anything in one hit, but, and this is why I believe I cannot do the DLC, it makes it so you die in one hit by draining your health. Force damage is still damage, and this isn't a requirement to complete the game, so I choose to forego the DLC. This video will be long enough, I'm sure. This is also why I can't complete the Master Sword too, by the way. I mean, if you still want to see me attempt it, I can sure come back and make it a separate follow-up video. Let me know if that sounds interesting. Before I rush the castle, there are 3 mini-bosses I have yet to fight, so the next IRL day, I begin hunting them down. The first is the Moldoga, found exclusively in the Gerudo Desert region. The beast itself isn't too much of an issue once you know it has a weakness to shock and being struck in the belly instead of the eyes like other monsters. My strat with them is just to sit on a rock and throw down a remote bomb to get it to launch itself out of the sand and then also stun it. When it begins rolling back onto its belly, that's the cue to start running back to safe ground. The only problem comes from my ignorance of the weather, and I foolishly take damage from heat exhaustion. No problem next time, and after pelting the creature with some shock arrows, can emerge triumphant. The next mini-boss is the Frost Talus, and you can find these guys in any snowy environment. I find one in the snowfields not too far from the first maze, and just like the Inyo Talus way back when, they are super easy to stun by packing some fire arrows, so no complications arise from this one. Now the only one left is the Stalinox, and I know of one that can be found inside Hyrule Castle, so after some prep buying ancient gear from Ravi, I anxiously make my way to the castle. With my hundreds of hours in this game, I have a good mental map of where all the guardians are in Hyrule Field and Castletown, so I can avoid the majority of them. I don't know about you, but reaching Castletown for the first time in my first playthrough shocked me. You could really tell this place got fucked up hard, that this was like ground zero for the apocalypse. It and the castle itself I find so intriguing to explore and see what I can find, something I just love about Breath of the Wild as a whole. But now I'm dialed in. I'm raring to go. Time to face down the gauntlet and storm the castle. As soon as you open that main gate, you are immediately spotted by guardians, so best to stay moving so you can avoid the many laser blasts. I was intending to use the Zora tunic from before to scale the castle via the waterfalls, before remembering about the Stalinox fight, which is located on the bottom floor in the dungeon. I can't fly down and run past some more basic enemies to enter his arena and throw down. Stalinoxes are different from regular Hinoxes, as you need to damage their eye specifically to finish them off. Considering the many super strong weaponry I have stuffed somewhere on my person, I can fell him quickly, completing this self-imposed side quest. Before fighting Ganon, I have one last thing I always feel compelled to do in a Breath of the Wild playthrough, and that's to scale all the way to the very tip top of the castle. Well, this might have been a good time not to, as I ironically make contact with Malice twice on the ascent, nearly dampening my mood. Regardless, I can't show off the best viewpoint in the game, and travel down these stairs that remind me of the ones you normally come up to fight Ganon in Ocarina of Time. But now the moment has finally come. Time for the final boss. Zelda speaks to me again, as Ganon is unleashed and we both plummet to the arena below. I may not have the Master Sword or all my memories, but I couldn't be more psyched for this rematch 1 century in the making. Thankfully, as a reward for my previous efforts, the champions unleashed a Divine Beast Blast, who annihilate away half of Ganon's health. Calamity Ganon has a huge variety of attacks taken from all the previous Blights, but for me, he always seems to use the Flame Short Sword from Fireblight. I don't know if it's because of where I stand to face him or something. Like many of the previous major fights, the first go-around ends anticlimactically as I jump too late to use the flames to get an updraft and burn myself instead. Graciously, the cutscenes before the fight can be skipped, so I'm not chomping at the bit too hard to try again. Probably because he uses it so much for me, I have the timing down pretty well to get flurry rushes when Ganon uses the Fire Sword. I remember to immediately begin backing up after an attack, as he will use an AoE ground pound like attack to get you off. A bomb arrow to the face initiates the second phase. Here Ganon puts up a shield around him that cannot be broken by regular attacks. Instead, the most consistent way to continue dealing damage is to counter his attacks with a flurry rush or parry. I can get more rushes like before, but now he throws in using the arm laser from Windblight, which I can reliably parry back at him. When he climbs onto the wall, I use the ancient arrows I save, as if you manage to land a crit to his head, they can also break the shield. After one last flurry rush, that is all it takes to secure me the victory on the second try! I did not expect to achieve this victory that soon. Let's go! For me, that's what I consider the final challenge. Even though Ganon has one other form we need to fight to finish, I see it more so as a victory lap sequence / epilogue, as it is miles easier than what came before. All you have to do is shoot the glowing parts on Ganon as Zelda highlights them with the Bow of Light. Which I gotta wonder, where did Zelda get the bow in the first place? Like, was it just in a closet in the castle or something? I was disappointed to find I couldn't reach the region Sheikah Tower during this sequence. Wanted to get a cool shot from there. Fortunately, my fooling around this time did not result in a regrettable death. With the final blow, Ganon transformed back into a fart cloud, and then is stealed away forever by Zelda, except not really, finishing the game and showing that yes, I can indeed The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild without taking any damage. 51 deaths is the final total. I'm sure I can get that lower if I tried again and didn't do anything foolish, but hey, it was still fun even despite some moments of frustration. I mentioned before that I'd be willing to return to try out the Champion's Ballad DLC under these rules for a future video, And for sure, I would really love to take this idea over to the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom. Let me know, I'd love to do more Zelda challenge runs. Next video after this though will be another New Vegas run, something shorter again since my college classes have started, and I have a lot less free time than before. Just letting you know in case you're wondering why the time between videos can fluctuate at times. But yeah, whatever. Well, if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the form of likes, subs, and comments down below on other runs you'd like to see. That is everything I need to say, apart from a final goodbye.
We accomplished a lot together. It was fun. Take care.